I'm Tchaconna Bailey, and this is my truth moment. So, I'm Tchaconna. I was born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia. I grew up on Richmond Highway. I know a lot of you guys in Maryland. My story started about 2 years ago. A year ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. In the beginning, I felt hopeless and lost and scared, angry, and wondering why me. In the midst of this, in the last year, I've grown to have an awesome relationship with God, and He surrounded me by some awesome people. I grew up in church, not really going for myself, going because my grandma wanted me to, my mom wanted me to, and I rededicated my life to Christ 2 years prior to being diagnosed. Now what I realize is that God was preparing me to go through this journey and to realize that He would still be there for me, right? Because in the beginning, when you have shocking news, you have a lot of people catering to you and around you, but then there's moments when you're totally alone, and God will start removing people one by one. He'll take them away so He can get to the nuts and bolts of a relationship with you. I say my story or my testimony is cancer saved my life. I have been struggling with certain things, doing things that you know is not really right, throughout my life, periodically not being my best self, like not really putting forth my best in everything, just living mediocre. And when I got diagnosed with cancer, I had no other choice but to start living my best life and start putting my life in order. I would say I'm getting my affairs in order because I didn't know what was at the end of the road for me. So I was afraid, I was scared, and I was lonely a lot of times. And even though physically I had people there surrounding me again and doing things that I needed in the physical sense, but at the dark hours of nighttime when I was by myself, I would find myself crying and wondering, like, God, why me? Why would I get this kind of diagnosis and be hit with all these things all at once? And in the beginning, it was tough. It was tough on my family. I have a young daughter, a 13-year-old. I have a husband. And just life, right? Like, I'm working and getting my mammograms, doing the things that I thought were required, and never thought that I would be hit with such a devastating diagnosis and such a, I'm getting my mammograms every year, so how are we missing this? That it was a stage 3 when they realized that I had it. When I rededicated my life to Christ, it was just the beginning of this awesome journey that He set me on. When I rededicated my life, I did it for me. I didn't do it for my mom or my grandma. I did it solely for myself. And it was the best choice I ever made. God just has shown up in my life. He showed me some amazing things about myself. He's connected me with some awesome, wonderful people. And I'm just grateful for that. And I share that a lot. I have been very transparent throughout my sickness. I'm still in chemo. I have 2 more rounds and I'll be done. And I thank God for that daily. So in the midst of this walk, I've been connected with women from everywhere, from me sharing my story, from me being transparent, right? God has connected me with some people that I would have never in a million years thought I would have a relationship with. He's shown me that it could have been you, because of a lot of the women that I've been connected with are dying, literally dying from cancer. Some with the same diagnosis as mine, some with different forms of cancer, but at the end of the day, they are dying. And so for a long time I would ask God, like, why do you keep connecting me with women who are passing? Like, what is your deal, God? And as audible as I'm speaking to you, He's using me. He said, I'm showing you what could have been your fate. But that wasn't my fate. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. It's been a wonderful journey. Again, I've been connected with some amazing people. He's led me to do things that I never thought, like sitting in front of this camera, sharing my story and just letting people know how cancer really saved my life. The scales were removed from my eyes. Everything was peeled back from me, and I was just left with me and God. And at that moment, I made a choice. Either I'm going to keep fighting or I'm going to give up. And I chose to fight and realize that I didn't have to fight on my own, that God was big enough that the only thing that I could do was plug into Him and keep, pushing forward with the art of living. Like, because I wanted to live. I want to see my daughter grow up. I want to hold my grandchildren. Those are all the things that I try to bargain with God. Well, God, if you allow me to, see my daughter graduate high school, and then I will push the chip further. And God, well, let me see my grandbabies, and God, just let me be, right? Like, let me just continue to live, to share the joys of you as often as people would hear. I don't push my beliefs on other people, because we do that a lot and it doesn't go over well to the non-believer or people who are struggling with their choices of whether to follow God or follow whomever they choose. And so it brings you to a place of thankfulness. I'm grateful that He chose to use me to take something that was meant to destroy me. And I say that a lot. Like, cancer came to destroy my life. And the only thing that cancer really did was freed me. It let me realize that God truly loves me individually, not collectively, me as Tchaconna Marie Bailey. He loves me, right? He cares for me. So that to me is miraculous. Like, you can't even understand His love. When I first started this Christian thing, I've known God my entire life. My grandma made me go to church. I went to church as a teenager and things like that, but I didn't go with the same intention that I went when I turned 40. When I turned 40, I kept saying, oh, this is a halftime show. So I have to get it right, because that's what happens as we get older, right? We recognize that we have a lifespan, and how much more life do we have in us. So at 40, I decided that I was going to get it right, and I intentionally sought out God for myself. It was no longer my grandma, my mom, my aunties, uncles, whomever. It was solely for me. And He introduced Himself to me in a new way, a completely different way than I've ever known Him before. He's my rock. I know that now. I've removed my faith from people and things and put my trust solely in Him. He's healed me from my head to my feet. He's mended my broken heart. And He allows me to meet women who were dealing with the same thing, the same beast. But I think He's using me to show them that it doesn't have to be as terrible as the diagnosis sounds, that you can still live beyond cancer. You can still live beyond whatever that thing is, because we all have things. We all have things that we face and we struggle with, but we can conquer and destroy those things with God on our side. So again, Tchaconna Bailey, this is my truth moment.